Hello, Leafs Nation. Excited to start off season 4 of the TML Domain podcast. Personally, I think this is going to be the best year yet. I think this is going to be a very good season for the Leafs. I got a lot of high hopes for this season, and I hope you guys are excited as well. I think we're 13 or 14 days away from the start of training camp. And the players have started to make their way to Toronto. So look on your social media feeds. You're going to start seeing some players skating around. The content is going to get going. So let's um, let's do a summer recap. We haven't talked in a long time since we haven't really had a chance to speak since the playoffs finished. So in general, I think the Leafs stepped it up in the first round against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think that series really comes down to goaltending. And the Leafs were able to exploit Andrei Vasilevsky uh, like no other team really has exploited Andrei Vasilevsky. They had a lot of traffic in front of the net. They were shooting from the point a lot and tipping pucks in front of the net. And you know that famous soundbite um, from one of the ex Tampa Bay Lightning coaches. Came out during the playoffs where they said Vasilevsky has a lot of issues with screens and stuff like that, which really, what goalie doesn't have an issue with screens with that much traffic in front of the net? So, and the Leafs finally found a goalie who could step up in a big game. And even though Ilya Samsonov was playing hurt in game 6, he came up with a hell of a game, made 31 of 32 saves, 9.6 something save percentage. Unreal game by Ilya Samsonov. You know, clearly one of the MVPs in that series. So crucial to that series win. Vasilevsky played a really good game in game 6 as well, but for once, a Maple Leaf goaltender outdueled the other guy at the other end of the ice. And how long have we been waiting for that, right? Through Freddie Anderson and Jack Campbell and all the other goalies, like if Samsonov was on the Leafs playing like this, like the way he did against Tampa versus the Montreal Canadiens, God knows how far they would have gone that season. But ifs and buts and candies and nuts, right? So it is what it is. The Leafs, you know, gave us a couple of days of, you know, happiness and cheering, and it was insane when that goal went in. Not only were me and the people who were watching the game over here, we went, insane. But we ran outside, and my neighbors were outside, and people were waving flags. It was a lot of fun. I'm sad that it couldn't last longer. That Florida series was, you know, it was a tough series to watch. A lot of one goal games, and really it came down to Bobrovsky, playing, you know, at a crazy level, making saves that are not normal. Like only Leafs fans have to endure a series like the Leafs versus Panthers and watch Bobrovsky get as hot as he did after, watching the Leafs play as hard as they did, get all those overtime victories, score some key goals, beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, The celebration in Toronto is amazing. It's euphoric. Everyone's excited. And then all of a sudden, Sergei Bobrovsky shows up, and Leaf fans are just like,
Bruh. Bruh.
unreal, unreal. But this team has taken another step. They've won a playoff round. They know what it takes to win, and they didn't beat a bad team. Like Tampa Bay Lightning are good. They have a great goalie. They have great defense. Tampa Bay didn't roll over at any point in that series. It wasn't a give me. It wasn't handed to the Leafs. Leafs had to gut that one out. For as many overtime games as they won on the road in hostile territory, good on them. You can't take anything away from the Leafs in that series. They exploited a great goaltender. They created opportunities against a great defense, and Ilya Samsonov, had some amazing games against a great offense. So good on the Leafs. That series was as close as you can get. I mean, razor thin margin of victory, and enough about the playoffs. But can't take anything away from the Leafs. That was a fun ride. And then after the playoffs, the craziness, like the crazy train, was in full speed ahead. Crazy train. So Leafs started negotiations with Kyle Dubas, and a framework is talked about. And there's a framework that's actually agreed to, that was talked about in February. And, talks were ongoing, and the season ended, and Kyle Dubas got his contract offer to be the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs going forward. And at the last minute, he, he changes certain things in the contract offer, which the Leafs couldn't capitulate to. So, he basically, you know, orchestrated his own exit. I guess, he knew the Pittsburgh job was available, and it is what it is. If he wants to go to Pittsburgh, that it is what it is. He was a decent GM. I can't say he was bad. I mean, uh, today Sheldon Keefe signs an extension, and people talk about his record and how good it is, and he's one of the best coaches out there, regular season wise. Um, what his record is for what his record is. And if you're the type of person that wants to give Sheldon Keefe his flowers, then you have to say that the GM during that time was Kyle Dubas. So if that's a good coach and his record is amazing, then he was the GM, Dubas was the GM, and he helped create that record. So um, it goes hand in hand, right? It goes hand in hand. He wasn't a bad GM. He did a lot of things. He did the most with as tough as tough a spot as he was in, with COVID, flat cap, not going up, but you have good players. You have to pay them. You have to add talent to your team on the back end and net. You know, he changed that roster so many times. He changed that roster so many times. I mean, before last season, he changed up the roster. He added new players. And then during the season, he turned the roster upside down again. And so it's like at the end of the day, it's what more do you want the guy to do? based on your cap and based on the space available, you can only add so many players, you can only add so much. And yet he turned around the roster, you know, by five, six players multiple times to try to find the right chemistry. And it's just, and it's not, yeah, we say, the GM is making these moves and it's his decisions and it's all on him. But really, there's a scouting staff, there's assistant GMs, there's Jason Spezza, which is the assistant. There's player personnel, there's scouting staffs, there are player development guys, and you kind of have a conversation as a whole saying, is Sam Lafferty the guy? Is Jake McCabe the guy? Is this, that? You look at so many different options, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of fit all the pieces into a cap system. So, you know, Kyle Dubas tried. You can't say he didn't try. He tried a lot of different formulas. And one thing he was able to figure out was the goaltending. When he left, the Leafs had two good goalie options in Ilya Samsonov and Joseph Woll, and good on him. He signed Ilya Samsonov and he signed Joseph Woll to 3 years and 750K, I believe. So it's, the Leafs are spending 4 million in change on two really good goaltenders, and nothing is really locked in long term. Kyle Dubas, if you look at when he left the Leafs had a lot of cap space. There was a lot of flexibility there. He knew that if it didn't work with the core four, he had to make changes, and there are players coming up for contract negotiations like Matthews and Nylander and Ilya Samsonov and so on and so forth. You had to, he had the flexibility when Tree Living took over, and he's a good GM. Nothing bad to say about Tree Living. I'm not really going to compare Toronto and Calgary and what the situation is, because Toronto is such a different beast. You have all this money at your disposal. You have the options to, bury guys like they're doing with Matt Murray. I mean, like the options you have when you're running the Leafs compared to when you're running another team are it's not even close. It's night and day. And Tree Living walked into a good situation with a lot of cap space, right? So you can try to sign Matthews, you can try to sign Nylander, and go into next season with 20 plus million in cap space. You have a bunch of guys on 1 year deals, and you could turn over the roster next summer if the free agents are better. So, like, let's say this summer, the Leafs replace Kerfoot with Max Domi. They replace Bunting with Bertuzzi. They replace Hall with Klingberg. So when you have players coming up in free agency, you look at what's out there. Do I have an upgrade over the guy that I already have? Is Bertuzzi a upgrade over Bunting? 100%. So instead of paying Bunting $4.5 million, you pay Bertuzzi five. It's really a no-brainer. Um, so it's Dubas left the Leafs in a good spot. His drafting wasn't bad. There's a lot of talent there. Not like, the prospect pool isn't amazing. It's not top 10 in the NHL, but considering that you're a contending team and you have to trade draft picks and you have to trade prospects and you have to do this and that to acquire players to really compete and to add, whatever you think the missing pieces at the deadline. He didn't leave the cupboard bare. He left the Leafs with a lot of cap space flexibility. Leafs a ton of cap space next year. And Tree Living really gets to try out a formula with Bertuzzi and Domi and Klingberg and Reeves, where it either works or it doesn't. And these guys are all on 1 year deals, and you go back to free agency and you look for other players that are going to make it work, right? So, you know, uh, I don't really have anything bad to say about uh, Kyle Dubas other than really the one key mistake he made was the Marner contract. It's a huge overpayment. And I personally think my way too early hot take for the season is if the Leafs can't win multiple rounds in the playoffs, if they win one and lose again, and Matthews Marner is not working, I think what's going to happen is, first of all, I think the Leafs are going to move on from Key. But Marner going into negotiations on July 1st, starting, he's making a 10.9, which is pretty much $11 million. If he wants a raise, it's going to be hard to make the case, and I think he's the one that gets traded or moved from the core four. And then you open up that cap space, and then Tavares the following season, his contract is up. He's going to sign, probably a 3 or 4 year deal to go into retirement at a lesser money. So you got more cap space even then. But, you know, Marner doesn't have a 100-point season like Matthews does. Marner doesn't have any hardware like Matthews does. Matthews is top five in the history of the NHL in goals per game, like Mike Bossy and Pavel Bure levels. Top five, nobody else is even there. And then if you look at, since he's been drafted into the NHL, Matthews has got the most goals in the NHL. So all these things make him a superstar, an elite level superstar, and then he gets paid. Which we'll talk about the contract a little bit later. And I have a take on that where the guy really didn't get a raise and he's still getting paid less than Connor McDavid, and I'll explain to you how that works. But in general, I just don't think if Marner doesn't have a crazy season where he scores more than 100 points, like 110 or something like that, and he doesn't have like a superstar performance in the playoffs, I think he's the guy that's going to go. Um, there is a clear indication as to how Brad Treliving builds teams and how he thinks about players. And he doesn't like guys like Marner, who are small, soft, don't hit, and don't do anything outside of the spinoramas and turnovers in the playoffs. I honestly don't think he's gonna hold on to Marner if the ask is ridiculous. But yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say about Dubas, the Marner contract aside. And Treliving walks into a pretty good situation. He's got a lot of cap flexibility. He gets to kind of, they say it's not really his team, but I think it is now because of the additions that he's made. He's really changed the chemistry of this team. He's changed the look of this team. He's brought in a real enforcer. He's brought in a couple of guys who are, they play the Brad Marchand style of game. They have skill. They can pass. They can score. But they're, I don't want to say rats, but they're not afraid to get in your face and under your skin after the whistles. So it's definitely changing the chemistry of the team a little bit. And so, so starts the era of Brad Treliving and the signings. You got Pontus Holmberg for 2 years at $800K. Very serviceable player. Easily can be your fourth line center going forward. He did look good in a couple of stints with the Leafs last year. He did look good. He was not horrible. Um, and then you got the David Camp signing 4 years at 2.4. I don't know about this one, just because there's not a lot. He's an elite penalty killer, which is really what's keeping him on this team. Him and Marner as a penalty killing duo is amazing. But I think as a third line center, if Pontus Holmberg or Dylan Gambrell is going to be your fourth line center, could be Lafferty, I don't know. You know, it should be David Kampf on lesser money as your fourth line center, and then maybe Domi as your third line center. But I don't know. 4 years at 2.4. I don't know about that deal. He doesn't have a lot of physicality in his game, but he's an elite penalty killer. And then you got Ryan Reeves at 3 years at 1.5, 1.35. I don't know, man. I like the enforcer. I like the personality and all that stuff. I just, with Sheldon Keefe, I don't know. He's going to want to dress a faster lineup on most nights. And I don't see Reeves playing every game. I see him as a healthy scratch. So 1.35 against the cap is could be killer for the next 3 years. John Klingberg, I like the signing because I remember a couple of years ago watching this guy play and thinking to myself, man, he's a good defenseman. I would like him on my team. He's had a couple of down years, but playing on the Anaheim Ducks, I mean, I don't know how anybody looks good playing on that team. Troy Terry looks good on that team because you see his skill. Zegras not so much, but man, um, I just think with more steady partners and guys who move the puck better, who won't leave him in trouble all the time, where he has to make a lot of defensive plays. I think he's gonna thrive in Toronto, and he's a good puck moving defenseman, and it's just another option to quarterback the power play. So if you put him on the top power play, if you put him on power play two, the Leafs have a lot of options there now with those power plays because um, if you put Willie and Marner and Matthews on the top power play, maybe there's a chance where Tavares can be the center on the second power play with Bertuzzi, with Domi, with Nyes, with Riley or Klimberg on the back end. I mean, it just there's a lot of options there to play with on the power plays one and two. There's a lot of options there. And the new coaches, Mike Van Ryan and Boucher, uh, they're gonna get like I like Mike Van Ryan as a defensive coach. He's been the defensive coach in St. Louis the last 5 years, and he was the defensive coach when they won the Stanley Cup. He's a he's the right guy to help guys like Klingberg and Riley and Brody. Yeah, so the Klingberg signing is good. Tyler Bertuzzi, no brainer, great signing. There's actually a rumor out there that says that Elliot Friedman was talking about that says both Bertuzzi and the Leafs wanted to sign a longer term deal, but for some reason they didn't. So I think as of January 1st, they're going to start working on a longer term deal. So that's going to be interesting what the AAV comes in on a longer term deal. Max Domi, like I said, you were paying Kerfoot $3.5 million, and he was your utility guy where you could play center, left, or right. And now you're paying Domi $500,000 less at $3 million to do the same thing. And he's just Domi is better than Kerfoot in a lot of ways. He's a much better playmaker. His passes are much better, and he's a little bit more decisive. Kerfoot, I find at times like his feet would move faster than his hands, and then when he got the puck, he didn't know what to do with it right away. Where Max Domi's got a little bit more hockey smarts, and in tight situations and in maybe some, high pressure situations, Domi will make better plays. So that's a easy upgrade right there. Dylan Gambrell. Dylan Gambrell. I don't know why I have issues saying that name. He was a depth signing, a center. He could play fourth line center in situations where the Leafs have issues with injuries and stuff like that. So most probably he's going to start the season with the Marlies. Ilya Samsonov. I'm used to saying Samsonov because of NHL 24 or NHL 23. Samsonov, I say. Ilya Samsonov went to arbitration and got 3.55. Great deal, like I said. His 3.55, in addition to Joseph Wall's 750K or whatever he's getting paid, is a very small amount of money to pay two good goaltenders. So I'm excited about the tandem there. And then the Leafs went and signed Martin Jones, I guess, as a guy who's going to come into camp. And if Joseph Wall can't continue where he left off, he's a veteran option at a very small amount of money, $875, I believe. So the Tree Living era has started off well in terms of the players that he's brought in. You can clearly see what he's thinking when he signs in Bertuzzi, Domi, Gambrell, Reeves, Simon Benoit, another guy who can hit and plays very rough and physical. Now, I'm not like, some sports writers in Toronto who get into people's business, and I really don't want to talk about it, but there is a purpose behind the Simon Benoit signing. Leafs will have a left-handed defenseman that's going to miss some time. He's definitely not going to be at training camp. And they have a guy who's going to miss some time. It might be the whole season. It's a fluid situation. I don't want to talk about it. It's other people's business. Eventually, the Leafs are going to put something out once camp starts and people start to ask why this player is not around. But there will be a defenseman that's going to miss significant time, and Simon Benoit was signed. Looks like he's gonna get a chance to play on the Leafs out of the gate, start the season. So that's, you can clearly see how Tree Living thinks. He's not really into, it's not always size is important. You don't always have to be 6'4", 200 pounds, but you got to play a certain type of game. And that's why I talk about Mitch Marner the way I do when the negotiations come. If Marner doesn't knock this season out of the park, 100+ points and a very good playoffs, I don't think Brad Tree Living even entertains a raise on $11 million. Bro, you're taking the same and we're not even talking about it. But I think personally, so Keith is coming back. If you're going to go for it, and if you're really going to go for it and you're going to be aggressive this season, I think you have to start with a top line of Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. You have to put those three guys on the top line. Nylander can play left. He has before. You can put Marner on the right wing, which is where he plays naturally, and you got Matthews at center. That line should dominate the NHL, head to toe. They're fast. They can all pass. They can all shoot. They can all score. That has to be the coach's mentality coming out of the gate. Just pedal to the metal, you know, because of the options you have now, you can do that. Like you can put Tavares with Knies and Bertuzzi, and it works out. Or if you want Bertuzzi and Domi to play together, It could be Domi, Tavares, and Bertuzzi on the second line, which leaves Nyes and Yarncrook to play with Camp on the third line. But you have a lot of options, and the Leafs have to go pedal to the metal right out of the gate. Like, the Leafs need to come out of the gate with a top line, like a top line of Matthews, Marner, and Nylander is it. Like, you have to scare the NHL. You have to let people know that, like, there is, like, we're not messing around this season. Other teams are going to hit the ice, and the national anthem is going to play, and then they're going to see on the other side of the ice, they're going to see Matthews, Nylander, Marner with Riley and Brody, and they're just going to be like,
it's over 9,000.
And on a lot of nights, the Leafs might score on their very first shift, just skating back to the bench at 30 seconds into the game.
That was easy.
Literally. Literally. It's going to be like, you're going to get some games against the Senators and the Montreal Canadiens where they put out like Cole Caulfield and like a bunch of other guys, or they put out Stützle, and these guys come out, and the coach 30 seconds into that shift is going to be like,
it was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
It's simple as that. Like, literally, just walking down the tunnel, coming onto the ice as that is your first line.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
No messing around. No messing around. Like, based on the interview that Sportsnet just posted with Friedman and William Nylander, watch that interview if you haven't watched it. William Nylander looks bigger and stronger. Like, he knows this is his contract year, and he is gonna light it up. Just
harder, better, faster, stronger.
legit. I think that's the top line. Or if you don't want to put Willie at left, if Willie doesn't really excel on the left, put Willie on the second line and put Domi as your second line center, and put Tavares on the left side on the top line. Either way, it honestly doesn't matter, man. Anyways, so Brad Treliving apparently, has been working his magic. He's talking to the free agents, and he's convincing them that there are opportunities in Toronto, that this is a good team, and they could make some noise. And you got Bertuzzi, and you got Domi. Matthews signed a great deal. We're going to talk about that real soon. And I don't know if it's just Treliving is good at negotiating, or he just shows up to the negotiations like, oh, that's not what's going on there. He just walks in like,
surprise, motherfucker.
But yeah. So I personally have the starting night lineup as Nylander, Matthews, Marner, Domi, Tavares, Bertuzzi, Nyes, Camp, Yarcrook, Lafferty, Holmberg, Reeves. Now, my one asterisk for the opening night lineup is Robertson. He can easily make the team out of camp. We all know he has NHL caliber skill. And he's a dog on a bone. He pursues the puck well. He's got a really hard shot. He needs to just put it together timing wise. And I think him playing with a guy like Domi, Nyes, or Bertuzzi actually helps. They hold on to the puck, they cycle. He's not he every time he's been on the Leafs have been like, a score off the rush type of team, and I don't think that's very good for him. But now it looks like the team might actually cycle the puck a little bit more and give him opportunities to get open in front of the net and unleash that crazy one-timer and wrist shot that he has. And on defense, because I noted there's going to be a left-handed defenseman missing, I started off the season with Riley Littlegren, Brody Klingberg, McCabe, Timmins. But if Simon Benoit looks good and he makes the team out of camp, you could easily go Riley Brody, McCabe Liljegren, and Benoit Klingberg. Or McCabe Klingberg and Benoit and Liljegren. Either way. There's a lot of options there. It's roster wise, the Leafs have a lot of options. The situation is very fluid, but cap wise, they have a lot of flexibility going forward too, which is why I don't really sweat it. Like honestly, so the Leafs signed Austin Matthews to $13.25 million, right? Cap wise. Since we're talking about cap, the fluidity of the cap, and the Leafs going forward. So a lot of people were kind of jarred by the cap hit of $13.25 million. And I understand that looking at that number, it looks large, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, you're getting paid more than McDavid. So let's look at the entirety of the situation. McDavid signed for 8 years at $12.5 million. He's taking up 16% of the team's cap. Matthews, on no deal has he ever taken up 16% of his team's cap, right? Matthews was at 14.64 of the cap, and now he's taking up 15.2% of the cap. And McDavid has never been lower than 15.7. So Matthews has always taken up less of the pie than McDavid. But so just average this out. You got 8 years of McDavid at $12.5 million. Matthews, if you combine his two contracts, the 5-year deal and the 4-year deal that he just signed, so you got 5 years at 11.634, and you got 4 years at 13.25. Over the 9 years, his AAV average is 12.35. 12.35 over 9 years. McDavid signed for 12.5 over 8 years. So the Leafs got one more year of Matthews at a lower annual average at 12.35 versus 12.5. So no matter how you look at it, Matthews has taken up less of the cap, less of his team's cap on his previous deal and his new deal compared to McDavid. And if you average his 9 years, his two contracts, the AAV at 11.634 and 13.25, you get 12.35, which is less than McDavid's 12.5. So no matter how you look at it, the Leafs are not paying Austin Matthews more than McDavid. Other than when it comes to July 1st and Matthews gets a signing bonus of $16 million, because that's the money. So that's just my take on the Matthews contract. If you average it over 9 years, the AAV averages to 12.35, which is less than McDavid's 12.5. The Leafs are not paying Matthews more than McDavid. Yes, the AAV is 13.25, and people are stuck on that, but that's an artificial number. It doesn't mean anything. Matthews is only taking up 15.2% of the cap, and McDavid is taking up 15.7. The AAV number is irrelevant. So, yeah, it's been a crazy off season. It's been a good off season. Losing Dubas would not have been ideal if you didn't get a good GM to replace him, and Tree Living has done a decent job so far. Like I said, he came into the team with a lot of flexibility. Kerfoot was a free agent, Hull was a free agent, Bunting was a free agent, Samsonov was a free agent, which they signed him. But there was a lot of flexibility there. He was able to let these guys go to free agency, replace them with the guys that he wanted to replace them with, where he thought the chemistry might be better on I think he was clearly looking at the playoffs and not worried about so much about the regular season, because he knew that when he got these guys, that they were going to have a good regular season, and obviously they're going to make the playoffs. So really, let's build something more specific or tailored towards the playoffs. And so, yeah, losing Dubas wasn't ideal, but Tree Living is a good option. He's you know, Dubas was able to hand things like Matthew Nyes over to Tree Living, right? Instead of having to go out and get another left winger, he's like, okay, I got a guy on an entry level contract who's going to make a sizable contribution to the Leafs, and he's going to play the way I want my team to play. Like Matthew Nyes is a Tree Living type player. He's not afraid to hit. He's not afraid to take a hit. He's got the hands to make plays, passes. Matthew Nyes is a gift that's going to keep on giving. And so, you know, regardless of what your opinion is on how the Leafs have done regular season and playoff wise, Dubas gave Brad Tree Living a pretty decent situation to walk into. A lot of flexibility with the roster in terms of free agents. I think there was 7 or 8 free agents in total, including RFA, UFA. And there was cap space there. There was players like Matthew Nyes and Joseph Wall there. Liljegren, I'm looking to him to take a big step next season. So overall, I'm very optimistic about the season that's coming, and I can't wait for hockey to get going. Just I I personally think the Leafs are going to be Leafs have always been a puck possession team, and they like to hold on to the puck. But with Domi and Bertuzzi and Nyes on the team full time, I think they're going to dominate the offensive zone. I think they're going to cycle and go behind the net more than they ever have before. And it's going to be fun to watch because, if you start pushing the Leafs around, like Steven Stamkos would never pull the garbage that he pulled in the playoffs last year if Ryan Reeves was on the Leafs, because he would absolutely nail him into the wall, take a knee out. I don't know, like with Ryan Reeves on the team, you're not going to see you're not going to see half the shenanigans that go on with the Leafs. I just hope the refs don't do to Reeves what they did to Bunting, because it was ridiculous. Let's be honest. It's let the guy play hockey. I mean, like, he's getting pushed around. He's getting cross-checked in front of the net. Either let the guy, if you're not going to call the penalty, let him defend himself. And if you're not going to let him defend himself, then you have to call the penalty, because how many times can you get cross-checked in the back before you lose it on the guy? I mean, any one of us, if we're standing in front of the net and the guy is just putting the wood to your lower back into your into your your liver, your colon, like if the guy's just two-handing you over and over again, it's either it's a penalty, it's not, and it's fair game, and you let the guy defend himself. You let him push back. You can't let a guy tomahawk another guy 3 times, and then when the guy turns back to push the guy, you call it penalty for retaliation. It doesn't make any sense. That's not hockey. But yeah, so I'm pretty excited. Let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think? So my lines, I'm going to go over them again. Nylander, Matthews, Marner on the top. Domi, Tavares, Bertuzzi on the second line. Nyes, Cant, Yarncrook on the third line. Lafferty, Reeves, and Holmberg on the fourth line. You guys let me know what you guys would like to see as the starting lineup for opening night. I can't wait. The Leafs are going to be so much fun to watch this year. They're not going to take shit from nobody. They're going to be pushing people around, and Reeves is going to be knocking people out. I think he's going to become a fan favorite. Game one, guarantee you, opening night versus the Montreal Canadiens, he's going to run Josh Anderson, Jack I don't know who, but he's going to kill somebody. And it's going to be fun to watch. It's I see on Twitter there's a lot of guesses as to who his first fight is going to be, and who's going to knock out first. It's going to be fun to watch. Yeah, I guess wow, 47 minutes. So that is our first episode of season 4. Thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you like the content. I'm going to be dropping episodes weekly. So tune in. Let me know how excited you are for the season, what you think of the lines, the UFA signings, if there's anybody out there that you think the Leafs should have gotten, like let's say Matt Dumba. He was a UFA defenseman that was sitting out there a long time. I was waiting to see who he was going to land with. Maybe the Leafs would have made a trade, like trading Brody's $5.5 million and signing him at 4, but that's all a moot point now. But yeah. Let me know your thoughts. I'm excited for the season to get started. Let me know where your excitement level is at. Mine is through the roof. The man who invented this belt that the Leafs use, the inventor, the designer, the creator, the one and only TML domain, making this beauty that the Leafs have a bootleg of. It's not, this is the only one in original. There's only one. Everything else is a bootleg. So yeah, Edge's belt is a bootleg made by the same belt maker, and he gave it to the Leafs. So who loves the Leafs more than me? Nobody. And I love you guys, Leafs Nation. I'm thinking about doing like a live podcast on opening night, or maybe the day after opening night, so we can all talk about where our excitement level is at, how the Leafs looked on opening night, things like that. So let me know if you guys are interested in something like that, and we'll set that up. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week. Like and subscribe.